All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to our information session and question and answer session for the upcoming Winter Festival Art Show and Sale. My name is Jessie Campbell, and I'm the Interim Artistic Director here at the Mann Art Gallery. And I'm delighted that George Glenn is here as well to be on this panel. For those who don't know, George is an artist and a renowned art educator, and he has been in Prince Albert for 50 years this year. And with that, he has participated and been part of almost every single winter festival exhibition. So we're pleased to be able to glean knowledge and information from his experiences. So thank you, George.
Glean from
Glean.
Glenn.
Glean from Glenn. That's what the subtitle of this should be. So just so everyone knows, we've got folks here in person at the gallery tonight, but we're also set up to be live on YouTube, and we've got people tuning in online as well. So for the folks tuning in online, hello, I think the camera's there. And type in the chat, I believe, if there's any issues or when we come to the question part of the evening, if there's any questions. And then Leah and Carolyn will get the online questions so that we can address those as well. So the plan for tonight is we'll start by providing some basic information about the Winter Festival exhibition, what you need to do to prepare your artwork to submit, and then how to submit it. And then we will take your questions about the exhibition. Some questions might require like a little bit more of a conversation or a more in-depth answer, and please know that you can always reach out to the gallery if you need clarification or further information, and we'd be very happy to help in that regard. So this is not the only opportunity to pose your Winter Festival questions. I'll start by giving a very basic overview of what Winter Festival is. It is different than the 3-week Winter Festival that happens in the city of Prince Albert. But the Winter Festival Art Show and Sale is actually one of the longest running member-based art exhibitions in Saskatchewan. It's been going for close to 50 years now. And in 2026, we're very excited that it is approaching that milestone anniversary. It started over at the Art Center, which is the former home of the gallery. And it began as a juried exhibition. So anyone could submit, I think anyone, but the work might not be shown on the gallery walls. And so that had a lot of interest and drama accompanied it from what I understand. There has always been a guest brought in an arts professional from somewhere in Saskatchewan or even further afield to guest curate the exhibition, which is a wonderful opportunity to meet other arts professionals, to learn from them, to get a good critique, and just see their creative work in getting the show designed. And they also designate a number of awards that are sponsored by local individuals, organizations, and businesses, both in PA and further afield. So it's a show that has a tremendous amount of interest and support. It seems to grow each and every year. And it's one of our, I think, most anticipated art events, not only in PA, but in this region. George, do you want to chime in with your impressions of Winter Festival and why it's an important exhibition?
It's always a temperature of what's going on in the past year, in our community. So even if you don't often get to see what everyone's doing, but it is an opportunity to see, get kind of a review of the year in a way. It's also really has evolved from those early years when it was in the gallery at the Art Center. And it was a juried, it was fully juried, so that everybody's work was shown, but only the work that was turned in was in the gallery. So there was always lots of, as you said, drama related to that. We can't give you specifics of homes.
Feature for Winter Festival where you can share your memorable moments and memories from your experience with the show as an host or a visitor. So there's a link to do that on our website, and we'd love to feature some of these memories and stories. So who knows, some of those juicy tidbits may emerge if you choose to share them.
All that bitterness rising.
To the basic requirements, what you need to do to get ready for Winter Festival. So I should preface by saying that this show runs in February and March every year. Today's October 1st. So we're trying to get folks prepared nice and early so that you have time to think about getting all the ducks in order. So basically, to submit an artwork to Winter Festival, you need to be a member of the Mann Art Gallery. You can purchase your membership right here tonight if you like. There's forms right by Leah. You can also do so online. You need to be over 18 years of age and a resident of Saskatchewan. So those are fairly easy boxes to check off. What should you submit? We do require that all artworks submitted to the show have been created within the last 2 years. That's because we really want to get an idea of what's going on right now. What are the interests? What are the traits and characteristics of a broad range of artists working in Saskatchewan at the moment? So work has to have been made in the last 2 years. The artworks also must be your original designs. So no making work from kits and then submitting. Please come on in. Hello, hello. Don't submit an artwork that you made at a paint night, please. It's probably not your original design. No paint by numbers, that sort of thing. We want your own unique viewpoint to be shared. With that, we want to give a note on ensuring that the artworks are respectful in terms of not culturally appropriating from I think imagery and symbols that are not of your own culture. And I say that because there have been issues like globally in recent years of imagery and symbols that are perhaps sacred to other cultures or have certain meanings that are unique to those folks. And basically when there's symbols and imagery of other cultures, especially minority cultures, incorporated in your artwork, it can really risk stereotyping those cultures and being harmful. So these are guidelines also that Canada Council for the Arts follows, that Sask Arts follows, and that we want to make sure we respectful of. So if you have questions about that, or if you're like uncertain, oh, I'm thinking about this in my piece, or like, what do you think about this, please come chat with me and we can talk further about it. I'd be very happy to.
I have a question right away. Is that okay? Can I interrupt you to have a question or sure?
Is that related to that?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I always have an issue around that whole concept because I think a lot of cultures are shared and built on and changed and so I guess I understand that line, but I'm not sure where the line is all the time because there is a matter of sharing or telling somebody else's story because they can't tell it themselves, or whatever oppressive reason may be, or or a fusion of this culture and that culture, which we really see in music all the time now, right? And so where's the line?
Where's the line? Tricky to know, but I think research has to be involved. I think communication, others has to be involved to ensure. And I think it's particular to different people and different artworks. So I want to put that out there as a general piece of information, and then again for specific questions, you know, we can talk. We can even look at specific images together before Winter Festival.
Who's going to judge whether it's appropriate or not?
Cases.
He's wet.
Yeah. So
Stereotype.
like myself. Right, to go in if there's something that's obviously going to be an issue. And we also want to make sure that the artists are informed too, like the submitting this, right? So that they're not causing any potential harm. So again, I think if you have a feeling that something might be verging on that, let's chat ahead of time to ensure. So yeah. Because we've also had guest curators in the past feel that, you know, some stuff has not been or respectful. So yeah, it's trying to, I think, support the artist.
So can I ask about a specific example?
Okay, yeah, and I'm gonna let everyone know that we've also got till like 8 o'clock tonight.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that we can address multiple parts of the show.
I guess I'll just be very specific in that I've got a picture of a hoop dancer. And I'm not Aboriginal, obviously.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that I can't put that picture in. Is that correct? If I took your wording just the way that it sounded, I shouldn't put that picture in. It's a celebration as opposed to being anything else.
So start at the beginning. Do you have permission from the individual?
It's in a public venue.
It's a public venue, but taking pictures, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
we own our,
Okay, so say I do have,
say you do,
yes,
then, you know, I mean, you're going to talk a little bit about something that's different with this Winter Festival, that you can describe your work, the work in progress,
Yeah.
before it's been finished. So that certainly would, you know, if you had permission of the person who was dancing, that would certainly affect.
Yeah, so I think if you, again, you're in the preparation of the artwork, which you might consider the research phase, you're asking the person, am I able to take your photo?
Okay.
Are you okay with your photo being in a public setting of the gallery? And is the practice, is it something that's appropriate to photograph? Because I know that there's some practices that are not appropriate to visually document, right? And I'm not saying like there's images out there like that, but I do think it's good to be respectful to the subject in that context. Yeah, before bringing it to the gallery. Yeah.
So the question is, I mean, you would do that with anybody. If you took a picture of Judy and put it in the Winter Festival show without her permission, she might be upset. But then if it went on to something else that was specific to a culture, and we're doing that without permission, that would also be, I think, could be in question. And it may be that in conversation or in discussion, it could be justified, it could be explained, it could be understood differently.
okay.
Isn't there something though that you can't sell it? Sell it publicly after you've taken the picture, even though they've given the permission to be displayed. I think there's something that you can't Can't sell it. Did you ever hear that? I never hear
because I
that.
never crossed that and never.
Yeah, I
I
remember
think that might
hearing
be
that.
part of the conversation.
Yeah,
And so this is where I'm thinking of sharing this artwork, right? And I can choose to have it for sale or not. Are you comfortable with this? You know, it's part of that conversation ahead of time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's a learning point for I think everyone as artists to be aware of, right? And again, happy to chat further after the fact. We can definitely set up a time to do so. Okay, so also on the note of original design, the world is moving quickly with artificial intelligence. It's already been talked about, very briefly touched on before we started recording this. It's a technology that I think has many interesting and intriguing possibilities within the arts, but there's also many challenges with it. Right now, and we're trying to keep up with the conversation, but currently there's no sort of like legal or ethical framework with intellectual property, copyright, and even the environmental impact of AI. And it's a little tricky, I think, currently to be able to fully understand it, to essentially judge it within this kind of context. So we would like to state that we would not like to see AI artworks in the show this year. But as mentioned, we're trying our best to keep up with how it's developing and how it can be used as a creative process for artists rather than something that's simply taking others' images and putting them up. So that's a big discussion, one that I'm really interested in, but we do need some further like time and resources to investigate that. Yeah. Okay, so those are two big things. And again, if you have questions about AI, we can talk about that as well. So George alluded to something new that we are doing with the artwork for 2026, which is that with your submission, if you fill out the online entry form that has like, you know, the title of your work, your artist name, etc., you can provide a brief description of that artwork. In the past, we haven't had that, but if you submit your work using our online form by December 1st, we will be able to compile that information and create a little package, a little exhibition package that will be available for you to take through the gallery when the exhibition is installed, if you would like to read a little bit more from the artist about their piece. But as I'm sure you can imagine, Winter Festival is a lot of preparation, and you know, this takes a lot of time to put together, so that's why we need that information. But again, go on our website, fill out the entry form by December 1st to be able to submit a brief statement with your work. And this is where something might come into play about, you know, the background to how the work is created.
Would that be available to the juror?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it still standard that the juror not know the name of the artist?
Yeah, we're not like, we're not telling them the name of everything. Obviously, sometimes they can see it, but there's like a signature, and we do require that the artworks, say for example, if it's a two-dimensional work, it has to be labeled on the back. So it's impossible to like have it be totally anonymous. And many jurors, I mean, they're keeping up with everything going on in the art, so they can definitely recognize different styles or approaches to work. So it's they'll have an idea, but yeah, we're not giving them like a huge label with the artist's name of the piece.
do you have somebody picked out?
We do, but we are not announcing that for about another month. We just got to get some things confirmed. So yeah, guest curator announcement. Okay, and also to think about in preparing your artwork. is that, again, as alluded to, the artwork can be for sale. It doesn't have to be for sale, but it can be. And if it is for sale and it sells during Winter Festival, the gallery takes 35% commission. And previous years it was 30%, but it's no surprise to everyone that everything is more expensive. So to do anything at all. So that's why after many years of it being 30%, it's been bumped up to 35% commission. So something to think about when pricing the work.
For a short time, the work had to be for sale.
Yes, there was a time when it had to be for sale, but now it's optional.
So then if you didn't want to sell your work, you put a huge price on it.
Okay, so then how to get your artwork to the gallery. Make sure when your artwork is here, it is ready to be installed and to be hung. That means it has to be totally finished. So last year I brought an artwork into the gallery and I then looked at myself and I had black oil paint on me. So please do not have wet paint, especially wet oil paint. Especially black. Please, the work needs to be done. It's here. If it's a two-dimensional work, we need it to have D-rings on the back, and we've got both a video online as well as graphics that show how to install D-rings on your art. It's really for the safety of the work and good solid installation so that things stay straight on the gallery walls. That's the D-rings if you've got a two-dimensional work. We will have a little station set up in this very room with tables and drills and D-rings. You can purchase D-rings from the gallery. If you forget yours or don't have any, you can install them right here. Any tips for installing D-rings?
Yeah, make sure that they're the same height.
Yes.
All frames. Apparently I did do that one year. They had a terrible time using it.
Many more holes had to be patched. Thanks to that.
Yeah. Matching D-rings.
Yeah,
Matching D-rings.
Can the D-rings be purchased prior to that?
absolutely. Probably, I'm not quite sure. We'd have to have quite a stock.
Yeah, the class we just had them available during the Dropbox week, just
Yeah.
because people didn't have any, but
Yeah.
you can get them at like Michael's or
Co-op.
Co-op.
Yeah, probably best to have your own little stock.
No, I just remember chasing around to
Oh,
find one
I
year.
think you've got
Yeah.
a
Dog show.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
just play a
Other
few
years ago, there
packages.
was none in town.
This one.
I think that was before your time.
We'll have some here during drop off if you are.
You need some of them.
Okay. Shopping.
Maybe.
You never know. If you are submitting a work that is three-dimensional and it's supposed to be displayed in a certain way, have a certain support, or it's a little precarious, make sure perhaps that you are bringing museum wax with you so that we can ensure it's going to be less likely to move on a plinth, for example. If you have an artwork, let's say a fiber or sort of textile work, really think about how it should be presented. That it might need to go on a mannequin if it needs to be shown in a certain way, or on a hanger, or like a rod that comes out from the wall. But really think about the presentation because we need those specific instructions so that the curator knows how to incorporate it into the overall design of the show. And don't forget that the presentation and the way that it is displayed should feed into really the meaning of the artwork as well. So it shouldn't be an afterthought. And if you send us like a scarf or something, then with no instructions, then we will display it however we like, considering it's open for interpretation. Okay, and we've got a couple of designated dates that you can bring your work to the gallery. There's 2 Saturdays in January, really hoping that there is good weather on at least one of those Saturdays. I know it's a tricky time of year, but you can bring your work to the gallery on January 17th, a Saturday, or between Tuesday, January 20th and Saturday, January 24th. And all these dates are on our website and in the information packet. No late entries are accepted whatsoever. If you cannot bring your artwork, you can ask a friend to bring it. Just make sure you sign off on that on the entry form. And we do not accept artworks by mail or by courier because it's just too risky, basically. So if you cannot bring your work, have a okay, anything to add from those basic requirements?
It's a huge task. I mean, the organization's big. The Mendel and the Mackenzie stopped doing group shows because it just was overtaxing his staff and his space. So we're lucky to still have this going. But it is a lot of work for gallery staff.
Yeah. On that note, if anyone wants to volunteer for any part of the show, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. Questions?
Yeah. Another question?
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're insane.
The whole jury thing on YouTube, like you did a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, we will be recording the guest curators walkthrough
Oh, good.
on the Saturday so that you can tune in if you can't be there in person, or of course reference it after that as well.
Judy, you volunteered before.
I have.
You've taken some of my work into the gallery.
I have.
You checked to see what was for me.
I did. Well, you cannot have fresh oil paint in a gallery because apparently they will off gas and affect the work around it. And the only way you can decide is if you smell it. So I was smelling. It's warm.
You turned around and Judy was smelling my painting.
I was smelling it.
They're gonna have to get a little puppy to train to smell oil paste.
AI Festival of Art Discourse this past weekend, and there was an artist there. He used AI to do a lot of political type of artworks. Should we avoid political artworks, especially in our kind of no? Okay, so if we had someone like, I'm not saying I would do this, but I know this particular artist did something where he put Donald Trump in a woman's bathing suit or something like that, or it's about gender equity in that. But this one chap from the US showed us. Yeah, I'm not saying I'd do anything like that.
Yeah.
But I was saying if something like that showed up in our show, like if somebody did that about certain political people, I'm not gonna mention any names, who have said things that are pretty harsh about gender identity to the young people of this province. If somebody decided to do an artwork like that, would that be like me, or would we actually put it in?
Yeah, I'd be comfortable putting that in.
Okay.
And it's really like, it's an interesting question because I think maybe the way it's being described now is that it might be very overt, perhaps detailed imagery, but there could be a comment on that with a variety of approaches, maybe something very subtle, right, that is read into a little bit more. So we're really trying to keep it as open as possible, because if these are the concerns that artists are working with in their practices, and they're researching and they're making work about. Like, for example, we can think of the exhibition here a couple of years ago by Donna Rose and Betsy Rosenwald called Journal of the Plague Years. If anyone saw that, the gallery was literally full, like bottom to top, of images like this, right? And it became a very powerful statement. Yeah. So thanks for the question. Yeah. Yes.
Just curious, like people submit things, do you show everything submitted, or do you have the power to say we cannot show this piece?
Technically, we do have the power to say we cannot show this piece, but I think that's only happened with one artwork in like
Yeah.
a long time. Basically, everything
Yeah.
is, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I have a question online.
Okay.
Asks if you have fiber art and wish it to be displayed on a rod that comes out of the wall, is the artist required to supply the rod with hangers?
Yes, we would like you to supply the rod with hangers. Sometimes we have some of these items, but if we get like 100 fiber pieces, then we don't have 100 rods to supply. It's like sometimes there's been work that's intended to be on mannequins, and the artist will bring in like a bust or a mannequin to show more. So yeah, thanks for that question.
Yeah, I could probably look this up online, but what are the categories for like non-two-dimensional art?
There's really no limitations. I should have mentioned that, and it's very, very broad, and we're not going to categorize in terms of subject matter or materials used. So, do you have something in mind, or of a type of three-dimensional material?
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to describe it though. No, I was just curious at this point. I'm sure it's all online.
Like if for folks who have participated or attended the show in the past, you may be thinking or remembering that there's categories for awards that are like, best ceramic piece, best sculpture, but there's also many awards that are open as well. So yeah, that might feed into it a little bit. But we were saying earlier before we started at 7 o'clock and before we started recording that we've never, to our knowledge, had a piece of performance art or video art. So, the possibilities are wide. Something to think about. What's one of the more maybe memorable types of work that you've seen?
Yeah, I don't know, I can't, size is always a big factor. I mean, you see big works first. But intimate works, small works can speak very powerfully also. Is there any limitation on size?
No, there's not.
Yeah, there used to be.
There used to be
4x4, yeah.
Yeah.
And have weight. There was one on weight, couldn't be over a certain amount to weigh.
Something about hanging.
Yeah.
That was an old gallery, but there was a weight limit for objects that could be hung after one very, very, very heavy piece arrived, and
Yeah.
they had a difficult time making sure it was not going to fall on the head of somebody.
Sure, yeah. I think some of these works that maybe are exceptionally large or heavy, or like some pieces even they've been so large they've needed to be brought into the gallery in pieces and then assembled here. Again, let's talk beforehand so we can make arrangements. Sure, everyone's on the same page and that the work can be safely and properly installed. And even if you need a little bit more time to like carry the pieces in, we'll try to remind you not to come at 4:59 on the last day of our drink off, which has
I'm thinking about a couple of very unusual pieces. They're three-dimensional, and almost all the plexiglass objects that George had brought from time to time. There was, there was that the big table with statues at the time of
Statues.
the Taliban had destroyed.
Yeah, it wasn't a big table, it's maybe it seemed big, but it was just like a coffee table type size.
I remember bigger, but anyway, it was powerful. It's what made it big. And Dana's huge pieces. I don't know how big the ones that came to the Winter Festival were, but it seems to me that we had a coach one year in the festival, or we did have one big 2-dimensional, which was,
There was a painting of a coach.
assembling a lot of objects into this. That's
Yeah.
just as 2 examples, things that aren't typical.
Yeah, like I said, it's open with materials, and I think in terms of size, like, again, think of what you want to get across with the artwork. What is the feeling, what is the idea behind it, and then how does visually it support the meaning that you want to share, or the idea that you want people to come away with after they view your work. And sometimes that merits large work, and sometimes it's, again, small and intimate, but it should all feed into what the purpose of the work is. One question that comes up actually kind of year round at the gallery is, how do I price my artwork? And it's not easy. And George, I'm wondering if you could chat about pricing your artwork and how to go about that.
Well, if you've never priced your artwork, think of what you'd exchange it for, like a bag of potatoes, or I mean, price of groceries is going up, so think in those terms, and just keep on adding the potatoes until you felt you're at a fair. Like you can say, would not trade my painting for 10 potatoes, 20, 30, 100 pounds of potatoes. Yes, I would sell my painting for that. How much is 100 pounds of potatoes? I don't know, but that's what you get. Then, if you want to base it on that idea, then you can consider, rather than saying, this is my best piece, I want more. This is my worst piece, I'll sell it for a lot less. Say all your work is the same quality. It should be. And then look at size. So small pieces would be less than large pieces, but really large pieces are not going to be saleable. So if there was a kind of a graphic scale, you might find that it started to curve down at the high end of the big size, but it might also, for miniatures, rise. So you might get a kind of a beautiful skull shape that would describe the value of your work. Some people still like to do, like they say, well, this is my best work, I'm not selling it for less or the same price as another work of mine that's the same size. That gets pretty dicey, because 1, you're not always the best judge of your own work, and 2, your valuation of that work can change over time. And if people are investing in your work, they're it's kind of a commitment. They're buying your work because they like your work. They would like to buy another piece. They don't want to know that you sold another piece for less than what they paid for. So it really, your credibility as a marketer really drops if there's not some kind of consistency in your pricing.
So you don't necessarily go on the size of your painting. Well, some degree you do. Yeah.
But then when I've done I've done very, very small works, and like a square inch. Well, if you're valuing your work on $10 a square inch, that puts your little painting at $10. When the time and effort that went into the production of that piece is multiples of that. So
So doing smaller pieces could be more work than doing a bigger piece.
Was there some price criteria, $2 per square inch? I remember hearing that, like if you did an 8 by 10, that would be $160 to sell your work.
And was that compared to potatoes?
No. I think it was an OSA.
Lots has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, the cost of living is, I mean, get the electrician in, it costs $200. Say good morning to the plumber and it's $200. So why would that not also be reflected in the cost of the work in your painting? We'll see. There are always points at Winter Festival. The best place to shop is Winter Festival, because you can find beautiful works, grossly underpriced.
And don't forget to incorporate the commission. That's in addition to your.
It's an extra 35 potatoes.
Yeah. So step one.
I think I was told that if you were, selling it on your own or through a gallery or a show with a commission, that you always price, like you say, George, everything is priced the same, so that people feel that, well, if I'm going to pay, 130 here and I can pay you 100,
Correct.
It
does undercut your homework.
Yeah. Okay.
So Sheila.
I'm up and potatoes have gotten expensive.
Good for you.
It's gonna be out of everybody's reach. Good thing I bought one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Other questions? Online or in person?
So for sculpture, is there guidelines on like fragility or something like that? Like how do you make it so that?
Yeah, you're really gonna wanna think for sculptural work about making sure it's stable when it's displayed. That basically comes into the construction of it, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have, I think we have one like kind of glass case. So as you've probably seen in past shows, the works are not covered, right? Unless you like brought your own sort of vitrine or case. Sometimes they are precarious, and sometimes that affects like where they're placed if there's uncertainty that they're at risk of being bumped into or something like that. Museum wax is a wonderful substance that for the period of 6 weeks of the exhibition can hold a piece in place and minimize the risk of it falling or falling over. But it's definitely part of what you have to think about when you're putting the work together. There have been artists who will do maybe like a plate, prop it on something, or they'll go and buy a stand for the work. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. If it kind of interrupts, what you've created in the piece and doesn't quite jive with your visuals. I just mentioned a plate. Like I've seen plates like propped up as though they're 3-dimensional, but they've also been installed on walls. So something that's 3-dimensional, it could possibly go on a wall. Last year we had a wood carving that I initially thought was supposed to be on a plinth, but it was actually intended to be on a wall. And the artist gave us that instruction and had a little graph that said, okay, like the nails go in here and here. So something to consider as well. Yeah.
Can you tell me the story about the piece last year?
Which piece?
The best of show.
Oh, what story about it? Which one?
That was the beautiful, a small piece, was like a table-sized piece. And it had quills.
Yes, that was by Chris Dancero, and it was a wood turning with quills incorporated in it. That's a stunning piece.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was damage.
Yes, there was damage. But I don't think it was at his. There wasn't the artist.
No, it wasn't the
that
artist.
was the damage. Yeah.
But to say whatever the piece is, it's such a big public exhibition.
Yeah.
That people bump into stuff, they touch stuff when they think you're not looking.
Yeah.
Really? I know.
I'm trying to be sure no one's looking.
So it does happen. And sometimes I think in this case it was that a person like bumped into it and it affected those porcupine delicate quills on that delicate piece. And it was fixable, luckily and quickly we were able to address it. But yeah, sometimes there's things that like, you know, the balance is really off and the curator might say, you know what, like this has to go in a corner or against a wall, and you don't want to have to make a decision like that. But yeah, it's in the best interest of the artist to try and be as secure as possible. And we absolutely do our best to like monitor all the movement through the gallery, put up signage that reminds folks to not touch. Yet still sometimes.
Don't bring a big purse.
Don't bring a big purse. Big purse in the backpacks. Not permitted. Sorry, there's just been a question behind you, Jerome, that you hadn't seen before. I'll go to that one first. Then come back to you, Marjorie.
Ask needlework or anything that's fabric. Like some of us have noticed that the people who've been judging the stuff don't know what needlework necessarily is. Like if there's something that's an intricate cross stitch compared to something that's like maybe a frame with some like a needlework kind of thrown through like a running stitch, and they consider, oh, this is great needlework compared to that fine cross stitch. Or maybe even something that's been handmade, like knit, or crocheted or tatted, but it isn't recognized. I'm hoping that there'll be some more people who actually notice and respect that type of artwork. So just wondering if I'm hoping that this year that there'll be someone who's a bit more astute to that.
Well, it's interesting because I think in the awards, and this is not unique to needlework, but I've seen it in a number of, I guess, awards at Winter Festival that are like medium specific or material specific or technique specific, if that makes sense. So what a curator might see artwork that incorporates needlework, right? The technique of it, the materials of it, but that also has other elements and other materials in it. And they might be really intrigued by how techniques within needlework or cross stitch are incorporated into an overall piece, right? So there's many, I think, elements and factors of an artwork: material, technique, idea, overall like message of what is being shared. And I know in the past they've been intrigued by how the technique is part of that, but that's not to diminish the quality of the work in other pieces. And I think we've chatted before about the fact that if there's uncertainty on the part of the gallery or the juror, that we can contact the award sponsor, right, to clarify. We've also had this with watercolor batik. You know, in recent years, there's been a couple of folks who are really exploring watercolor batik. And so they're using watercolor like paint and general approach, but then they're incorporating other materials into it. And some guest curators say, well, is this watercolor or is it mixed media? Do I include it in the watercolor category? And to me, I think it's really interesting when these are mixed up. And it's great because it makes us look at the artwork and are intrigued by it. And that's what artists do, is to advance different techniques and ideas. You mix things up, right? You do unexpected things. Again, not to diminish like a watercolor on paper, because that also has merit, and depending on the artwork can be equally as successful. But I think it's an overall consideration of the artwork rather than focus on a specific technique. And yeah. Do you want to talk to that a little bit more about really what might make an artwork really intriguing or excellent?
Well, the question Marjorie raises is a question that's being raised almost in every winter festival exhibition that I can remember, because there were often strong elements of, for example, weaving. And often the jurors that came didn't have that expertise. They could look at it in a broad sense. They could see its aesthetic kind of worth, but in terms of judging the quality of the craftsmanship, they weren't there. And some can't identify cross stitch or any kind of stitch particularly. So, I mean, earlier on there were, especially when the program was going on at SciAS, there was an effort to bring in people who had more literacy in terms of jury work, like Judith McKenzie. But those were single kind of, that wasn't a continual thing. It's just too hard to find a juror that can broadly cover photography, painting, sculpture, the fiber arts, all of it. So I mean that's always a difficult one, and it brings up the whole broad question of the continuum of content and technique and where they cross over. I remember Anne Newgate was a weaver. She's not living in Saskatchewan anymore, but she actually, there's a piece in Saskatchewan Arts Board permanent collection where she actually used paint on her weaving. It was bad paint. It was great weaving. So it didn't really, in terms of the estimation of that piece, the quality of the paint didn't diminish the statement of the work. So there it is, kind of in a nutshell. When you bring somebody in who doesn't have that experience, they look with new eyes. And I suppose the onus is on the artist to make the technique speak. It's got to speak. And I guess I don't know the fine points of beadwork. There must be grades between beginner beadwork and advanced beadwork. But if you're showing your work, the thing at this winter festival, I don't know who the juror will be, but I can almost promise you it's going to be the visual impact of the piece.
When it's different, well, sort of answers or some similar to the question. When the spinners and weavers began to have a prize for fiber, we just said fiber, and 1 year there was a piece that was a gauzy piece of fabric, and the person just removed threads, whichever way, and they were given the prize. Well, members were whoo. So then we became very specific with where that prize money was to go for, and it had to be woven, it had to be hand spun. If it was knitting or crocheting, it had to be with hand spun, those kinds of things, just so that someone couldn't take a piece of commercial cloth and create a art piece, because that wasn't who we were, so, and I guess, I'm sure that most of the people who have donated funds for prizes have been specific as to what, and if some of them are open,
Yeah, there's a mix, really. Some are very specific, some are totally open.
yeah,
And we do make an endeavor every year to bring in a curator who will have a different background, different skill set, all professional levels, either being an artist or a curator, right? Who is looking to design a show using that professional knowledge. So we are listening when folks say, well, actually, there's more than painters who are the curators. I know that's a common. Don't worry, we hear you, and sometimes it comes down to logistics as well. If we invite one person and they simply are not able to make it up here, and then we go to another person, like there's a number of factors that come in there. But yeah, I appreciate the question, comment. So. And Jerome, you have a question?
Going back to the possibility of damage to any one person's art, does the gallery have insurance for that kind of thing? Theft, damage?
Yeah, we carry insurance, so our exhibitions, it's part of the.
Yeah. Is that part of like, it's not part of a disclaimer, obviously, but is that part of your package online that?
I'll have to double check if it's in there.
I don't know if it has any real bearing. Like, I've never really cared, and I mean, I've insured sometimes when I've had a show in different places. I've insured myself. Insured my paintings myself. But thank goodness, there hasn't been damage, there hasn't been theft, and all that kind of thing. So I guess I tend to disregard it anyway. But maybe somebody.
Till it happens.
Yeah, till it happens. It's.
Yeah, and when there's, like the damage piece from last year, it's definitely a case by case basis. In that case, artist said, "Oh, I have clothes. Let me just come in," and luckily that was a straightforward fix. But with other issues, case by case.
I had a scarf stolen, and
You did.
Jesse phoned me very upset.
Oh, I'm sure. You were upset too.
I was. The funds were there quickly, so yeah.
So you paid out the value of.
Yes.
Asking for the scarf. Is that how it goes?
Yeah. Either purchased in the proper way or returned.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on the street. Hopefully.
Well, Jerome kind of asked my question. I remember a couple of years ago there was a sculpture, and it was when Griffith was here as curator, and it was bumped into and smashed. And I just wondered if he would have been paid out the cost of the sculpture.
Potentially, yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, that's right before you.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Just kind of out in the middle part on a plinth, and somebody bumped into it, and smashed it all. Yeah, it's really
Never submitted anything before and considering a photography piece. Is there any guidelines or helpful hints that you would advise in general on photography?
I think it goes back to what are you looking for in the total package of what makes an artwork successful? With photography, how are you using the medium to communicate the idea that you are exploring or wanting to ask questions about or get a message across about. It doesn't have to be, don't think of making it like an overt thing, but again, what is the idea that folks go away with? What will make them hold their gaze when they come to the piece, which I know is a little bit vague, but
I know.
Sure.
But I'm looking for like giving and like having the opportunity for the artist to tell a little about their work, I think is gonna be like when I see art, or then when I hear about it after, when I hear a story about it after and go back to it, it means so much more. So I think that would be really beneficial.
I would say for any artist preparing their work, and I know that painting build, hopefully not oil paint, but if you're maybe starting now, think about what kind of threads of ideas, curiosities, information, exploration are you looking at? Are you curious about? And even if you're not working and drawing or painting, like make sketches, make notes, write down words, read about it, do the background research. There's so much that goes into the creation of art before you put pen to paper or before you snap, right? To take that photo or however you're making your work. Like really, I think sometimes great artworks, they might be like a one-off for a person, but it's usually because they're working a lot, but it really is this continuum of visually exploring your ideas. So even if something feels silly, just like do the sketch, write the think about it, come back to it, get others' thoughts on it. Really dive into it and put what you feel is your best work forward. Sure. Yes, Roman.
Well, the curator tends, following up on the question and the discussion that just happened, will the curator then see any description that the artist may put in on his piece of work before they do the judging?
We will let them know that artists have the option to do that brief statement, right? Because sometimes curators do ask if there's a little bit of background information. Sometimes they don't. So it depends how they want to go about it. Some really prefer to go in completely visually and work from that as their information because they might be thinking that, well, maybe the majority of folks are coming in and looking only at visuals and not reading. Whereas others like to do, some thinking ahead of time and maybe research into different subjects that are being presented within the work. So it's going to be up to them, but we're trying it out this year to open it up. I should say that when folks submit their online entry form by December 1st, if they want to do the written statement, we'll ask for the information, but your artwork may not be 100% complete, but still submit the picture of what you've got so we can match it up, but we can't stop you from going in and, doing an extra stitch on something between December 1st and January 17th. Yeah.
Oh, why is the description required so early?
Because it takes us a lot of time to put everything together. So what we would like to do, so usually for context, there's 150 artworks minimum in the show, right? And a lot of inquiries and such coming in all around that time. What we would like to do is have a little pamphlet that folks can walk around with the exhibition if they want. And if they want to read about a certain piece that an artist has provided some words about, then they can. But as I'm sure you can imagine, it takes time to put that pamphlet together in preparation for the show. So we need the time.
But is it just, sorry, Jesse, it's just a blurb, it would not have a visual with it, it would just be a blurb.
We'll put the blurb beside I'm not sure if you remember labels for Winter Festival, but they often have a number with them. So you can see the label on the wall and then the number of the artwork is also in the handout, right? So it would be beside the number of the piece. So as you're going around.
But you're looking for a visual just so you
know what it looks like? Like it wouldn't be going in.
Oh, yeah, no,
That's
that
what I'm
visual,
asking.
no. And like when you bring your artwork to the gallery, right, we make sure that you have your name somewhere, somehow on the artwork and stuff, so that we know for when we're doing our labels after the show's installed, we can match everything up. But no, the visual submitted.
Okay, so because it won't be done December.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't think the intent is to limit the creative process, so, I mean, you can start with one idea on December, whatever, and it will evolve, it will change. And if it's a completely different concept by the time you finish, then just ask for the gallery for that first description back.
Yeah.
But in a kind of way, it does force you to be articulate about where you're beginning. And then from there, you sometimes work with more clarity in reference to that one description. Sometimes it's easier.
That's
Interesting. Are there any questions online, Leah, that have come through?
no.
All right.
I have two pieces that have been woven previous, but not finished. So if I finish them now, I mean, it's more than 2 years.
Yeah, I think if they're not complete, then there's no date on them as of yet, right?
Okay.
If you're finishing
The,
now,
When
yeah.
Peter Doig put it away from now,
Well,
waiting to be finished.
I mean, what's the difference between 11 years when you need to think through piece? So,
okay.
yeah.
So that's to save those pieces that you haven't thrown away, that you're still.
Well, yeah, I mean, the ideas was good, but the put togetherness wasn't quite there. So I have
Start at different
Yeah.
points.
it's going to be different.
Well, I think we're at 8 o'clock or so. Is there anything else before we wrap? From folks online or here?
Yeah, nothing online.
Okay. So I'm going to reiterate, please contact the gallery if you are uncertain about any aspect of the show. I know there's a lot of details and preparation to think about, but we also very much appreciate everyone sharing their work in this big exhibition and coming together at an exciting time of year. So thank you. George, anything that you want to leave us with?
I think that anytime you show your work, it's pretty personal. And it's pretty scary to think that it's going to be publicly shown. It's going to be reviewed by a professional. And then when it actually happens and you get no feedback about your work, it's profoundly disappointing that no one even criticized it. So we're kind of, every time you put your work into something like this, there's a lot of mixed feelings. But remember, the juror is an opportunity for you to get some kind of information, some kind of view. It's not necessarily that view is correct. I mean, one of the interesting things about Winter Festival has always been that the general public come in after the whole jury process is over. And then they come out with their own. That wasn't nearly as good as the one that I like. And there's a lot of debate and discussion. And so that doesn't mean that just because the juror hasn't awarded a prize for your work, that your work is less than any of the other works in the show. It may not be that case at all, because no juror is infallible. So it's kind of like you just kind of roll with it a little bit. Don't take it too seriously, but get involved, because it's certainly a way you can stretch your whole concept of making work.
Great perspective.
I'm always worried that when I come, there'll be just this pile of thread sitting. It's been my nightmare every year.
Could you?
Please.
Share your insight and your knowledge with us. Much appreciated.
I have an unrelated question. You haven't been in every winter festival?
No.
Is there anybody who has been in every winter festival?
Not to my knowledge. I think George is probably the closest, or Prince has been in the most.
How many years has it been going?
It'll be 50 this.
50.
Oh,
Yeah.
50.
Yeah.
The art show has been going that long?
Yeah.
I know.
First at what is now the Dixon Central Avenue at the Art Center.
Yeah.
Where the gallery was originally located. And then.
Wow, it's grown a lot then.
Yeah.
It's amazing those floors didn't fall in with all the people there.
Reg, you and Lorraine must be one of the first people here to put work in this.
I know, I wasn't around till about
In the 90s.
or something. That was probably the first time I did something.
Well, we moved to PA in 98. You were submitting
Yeah, I
art
was
when-
submitting before,
before in Ron. No,
but it's still not anywhere near
years.
because I was gone from PA for a long time then. I was thinking now George has lived here longer than I have in all my in all my years of coming and going.
Yeah.
So I had 20 and then 4 and then 20 again. So 44 years is all I've lived in PA, and George is now more than that, even though I was born here.
This is a great show. There's folks who are submitting for the first time, preparing their first artwork, and folks who have been in nearly every show. And it's, I think, very rare to have an exhibition with this wonderful mix, right? And you never know how pieces will come together and how different themes will be teased out and displayed in the show. So, yeah. So thanks again, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you to the Melfort Arts Council for lending us